Now that you have all the resources ready, let's get started. Welcome to Module 1, which is titled Cultural Competence Development. What do you know about diversity and inclusion? If you like, you can refer to page 2 in your workbook to write some notes. You may have heard about diversity before. It's the word that we use when we talk about the ways that we're different from each other. It could be our skin color, our language, our gender, could be our abilities, our age, our faith or religion. It could be our country of origin, our family structure, or it could be something else entirely different that sets us apart from other people. We learn about these ideas as we grow and develop at home, at school, in our activities, or in the community. We also learn about these ideas through our experiences and sometimes through TV, the news, social media, or movies. Learning about diversity and inclusion is important because we want everyone to feel at home in the Pembina Valley, like they belong. The more we know, the more we can support building a sense of belonging for everyone. To think a little more about these ideas, please work through the self-reflection on page 3 in your participant workbook. Anytime we do a self-reflection, it's important to remember to be honest. There are areas where you will have strengths and areas where you might need to develop or learn more. I know I do. Be as honest as you can and accept your strengths and identify those development areas that need some growth. You may want to pause the video for a little bit and continue the video when you're ready. Our research shows that employers in the Pembina Valley are already hiring a diverse workforce, but that doesn't mean that everyone has a sense of belonging. These pie charts are found on page 20 in the guide, and they help us identify how employers and newcomers see things a little differently. When we know this, we can work toward improving everyone's understanding. In the first set of pie charts at the top, we asked employers and newcomers if workplaces in the Pembina Valley valued diversity. All of our employers said yes, absolutely, they value diversity. When we asked newcomers, they weren't so sure. Almost 50% of the newcomers that we surveyed believed that their workplace either did not value diversity or they weren't sure if it was important. In the second set of pie charts, we asked if people knew what to do if someone felt discriminated against or had witnessed it. Again, employers confirmed they have a process in place, they have trained on it, and people knew what to do. But when we asked our newcomers, over 50% said that they didn't have a process in place or they weren't sure.
To welcome you guys to Maverick Industries. Thank you for joining our orientation today.
Even if you're doing something to support diversity and inclusion in the workplace, if people don't know or they don't know what to do, if it's unclear, it looks like nothing is happening. It feels like there's no support in the workplace. Communicating policies isn't just saying them or having people read them. Knowing whether communication has happened is determined by whether people can show you what to do if they experience or witness discrimination. If you're not hearing about concerns as an employer, it doesn't mean there aren't any. It just may mean that some of your staff don't understand the path to getting help. When we have a difference in understanding, it can sometimes lead to bias in the workplace.
Good morning. Do you have time now? I need to report an incident here.
Good morning, absolutely. Please come and sit down. I'm so glad you came to talk about this.
To help us understand more about this, I'd like to do an activity with you. For this activity, I need you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine you're running late for a flight. Really get a picture in your head of what that looks like and feels like as you run through the airport to make your way onto your gate and onto the plane. You are relieved as the flight attendant warmly greets you. As you settle into your seat, the pilot comes out to say hello. You have a safe and comfortable flight and you get to your hotel. You go to a nearby restaurant to grab a meal where at the table next to you is a couple celebrating their anniversary. The next morning, you show up at your conference for tech startups where the CEO of the hottest tech startup takes the stage to kick off the conference. Now open your eyes. I have a few questions for you. Was the flight attendant a male? Was the pilot a black female? Was the couple celebrating their anniversary 2 men? Was the CEO who kicked off the conference a female? If your picture didn't match, that's unconscious bias. Science says that those aren't just images, they're attitudes and associations that we attach to our images. Your brain creates images of things that are familiar to you. The people mentioned in this imaginary exercise are familiar to your experiences. When we encounter the unexpected, it can cause us to feel stressed out. Let me give you another example. A son and his father are in a horrible car accident. The father dies on impact and the son is rushed to the hospital. The surgeon looks at the son and says, "I can't operate. The boy is my son." And you wonder, how can that be? Well, the surgeon is his mother. Did you automatically assume that the surgeon would be a man? You see, we all have unconscious bias. And it's important to recognize that unconscious bias is not conscious discrimination. I'm not saying that all of us are secretly sexist or racist. We all have biases. They're the filters through the way that we look at the world around us. So why would we do this exercise? Because our perception and our biases may lead to discrimination. And we need to consider what the impact is if we say and believe that everyone deserves a sense of belonging. Bias is the way that we feel for or against something or someone, usually in a way that's unfair. Bias can develop over time, or it may be learned. And if we're not careful, it can cause us to treat others unfairly. If the people that we work with do not understand the policies we have, they may behave differently than we expect.
What we need is, we need 2x2 tubing. We also need 1x2 tubing.
We may assume that they know better when they in fact don't. We start to think that they don't care about the things that are important to us, or maybe they're stubborn or unwilling to do things the way that we do them in Canada. But sometimes their actions may be because they don't know or they don't understand. Think back to the pie charts we just looked at. Many people don't know or don't understand the policies we have in place. When we start to hold people responsible, we sometimes develop a bias in our minds that's unfair and could cause us to discriminate against them. How have you experienced or observed bias? Here are a few examples of bias that people in the Pembina Valley have experienced. Number 1, a man and a woman arrive at a business to make connections. As they're greeted, the employer representative assumes the white male is the boss and doesn't even acknowledge the visible minority female at all until she is introduced by the man as his manager. Number 2, immigrants should be grateful for any work. Employers are offering split shift options for 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and then are angry that immigrants are not happy to take on this work. I don't know anyone who would want to work a split shift like that, especially if you have a family and you're putting kids on the bus or receiving them home after school and getting supper ready. Why would we think that they're any different than the rest of us who live here? Number 3, employers have advised settlement services staff that if a candidate cannot speak English, don't send them to me because I don't have time to deal with them. And number 4, there's an assumption at times that newcomers and visible minorities are applying for cleaning or kitchen positions, when in fact, they've arrived at a business to apply for an IT position, or a service role, or an accounting role. One way we sometimes show our biases is through something called microaggressions. There are 4 types of microaggressions. Definitions of each of them, along with examples, are in your participant workbook, and there's more information in the guide and toolkit on pages 40 to 43. Comments Questions or actions that degrade someone because they belong to a specific group of people can be very hurtful, and we don't often realize when that happens. They can make someone feel like they don't matter. When we think about these ideas and think about where we need to grow and learn, we start to become a little bit more culturally competent. But that's actually not where we want to stop. We want to build towards cultural humility. Have you heard of that idea before? It was new to me when I started this work, and I like it because it encourages us to keep learning and growing and thinking about what we could do better. It's a lifelong commitment to growing in this area. The picture in your participant workbook on page 5, and there is lots of room to add notes around it. You can also find the picture with more information and ideas in the guide and toolkit on page 29. Now that we know a little bit more about some of the theory and ideas around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we know that we'd like to move past that, past cultural competence, and be more culturally humble, how do we do that? One of the best tools that we've found is to use this reflective learning cycle. It's included in page 6 in your participant guide, and it's on page 34 in the guide and toolkit. The cycle starts at the top and asks us to be aware when we notice that something is different. We call it something's up. Before we make a judgment or evaluation on what we are seeing or hearing, we are encouraged to spend more time observing and interpreting, watching and understanding. The reason for this is we tend to interpret and evaluate based on our norms. If we really want to get to know someone or understand why they're doing what they're doing or saying what they're saying, we need to interpret based on their first culture experience. By observing and learning, we will be more accurate in our interpretation and more fair in our evaluation. We will also be able to help advise and counsel someone as they adjust to local cultural norms. A key is to stop interpretation and evaluation to allow more time for observation. Quick judgments are based on our cultural norms, and they can cause errors when we're working across cultures. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is important to learn about. We learn more about the struggles of our newcomer neighbors and coworkers. But building awareness doesn't change things. So, what should we do? We start by learning more about EDI and realize that just knowing is not enough. We need to do something. When we do something, we support justice. What will you do differently after this? This helpful chart is located on page 7 in your workbook and is also included on page 30 in the guide and toolkit. Here is where you're going to find a few tips for supporting developing cultural competence in different ways with different groups of people. There are more resources and links and ideas and information on the PVLIP website under the Resources tab and throughout the guide and toolkit. It starts with each of us and our development. Using our influence, we can support positive change. How has this video helped you gain knowledge about equity, diversity, and inclusion? Did it increase your awareness? Did you learn something that you didn't know before? Did it increase your understanding? Do you think about something differently than you did before? Did it add to your skills and abilities? Do you have some ideas or tips or tools that we've discussed that you can use when working or living alongside newcomers? Please visit our website or use the QR code in the participant guide to complete a brief survey to help us improve these resources. Thanks for spending this time with me and for your interest and effort in helping to build welcoming and inclusive communities in our home in the Pembina Valley.